Good morning, peeps. Um, I don't do videos. I don't do phone calls. I don't do anything like that. And if I think about it, I usually would think I'm gonna put makeup on and dress up and try to look halfway decent first, because right now this is just me and my bare bones me. And I don't look like my profile picture or anything like that, like this. But I've had a lot going on in my life lately, a lot of really hard things that have made it difficult for me to have the energy and the motivation to do self-care. So I'm sitting here with my kitty. That's a little bit of self-care, I guess. So my team and I have talked at length over and over and over for many years about the difficulties in keeping up with the questions that pop up in the group. Cat hair. The difficulties in making sure all the questions are answered accurately. The hours of time that it takes to respond to questions. The manpower that's required to watch the group, try to answer all the questions to make sure that they're accurate, try to monitor all the comments and make sure that nothing's popping up that's inaccurate. You know, all the stuff that goes along with moderating a group. The group is extremely big. We're coming up to 50,000 people now, and we actually basically only have 2 admins who are adminning. And my staff are trying to be in the group more. Anyway, so the purpose of this video is, what was I saying? Because this isn't what I do. I'm very self-conscious. I actually honestly have like very bad social anxiety. And I have, like I said, a lot of really tough stuff going on in my life right now. But there's things that need to be addressed. And so one thing that we've talked about as a team over and over and over is video instructions, video guides, and whatnot. And it just seems like we're always so swamped. You know, we've moved programs many times. We've hit so many hurdles. For those that don't know, this group, sorry, it's stuck to my chapstick. This group, you know, we are a business now, but the group started because I applied for one of my own kids and she was denied 5 times. That was back, you know, I don't know how long ago it was now, 7, 8 years ago or so, at a time where denials were, I would say, over 90%. I was frustrated. I'm not a don't take no for an answer kind of person. I started researching, trying to figure out what had changed in the criteria, because I'd had kids before that who had been approved quite easily. And so it didn't make any sense to me, especially because by the time I also just got out of the shower, so by the time, now I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, by the time I applied for her, like, she was quite a bit older. by the time I applied for her, she was a lot older than my other kids were, and so I was a more experienced mom and understood her conditions and things better. And so when her doctor and I prepared the DTC form together, it was before I was a DTC expert. Um, we made sure that there was a lot written on the application form. And in my mind, her application was done a lot more thoroughly than my prior kids. And so we were very shocked when she was denied. Um, and we sent, a request for reconsideration, all that stuff. And she just got denied over and over and over again. And then I started looking around to figure out why. And there wasn't information released on the internet at that time. There wasn't groups with any information or anything like that. It was very, very hard to find information. I would occasionally come across some random forum. Like if you think, I think I started the group about 8 years ago or so. Or, yeah, something like that. So if you think about where things are at social media wise in that period of time, like, yes, there was Facebook, but, it wasn't what it is now. And there were still websites with forums, right? And that's where occasionally I would find some really, really small amounts of information about what was going on with DTC applications at that time. And usually it would be like somebody had applied and been denied, and they were posting in a group related to whatever the condition of the patient was. And there'd be like a question or two, couple of responses, not much for answers. Like very, very rarely did anybody have any idea why people were denied. And the denials were ridiculous. Like, my daughter has ADHD. My 2 sons, before I applied for her, had ADHD. They were easily approved. My other daughter, that's a little older than that one, has a mild brain injury. She was easily approved. So didn't even cross my mind to think that her application would be problematic. So I was looking, at that end of things, and was shocked when I started looking around, finding people's kids who had been denied who were nonverbal and they were in their adolescent years. A kid had no hands and was denied. A kid had no eyeball and had poor vision in the other eye and was denied. Yeah, just things like that just completely flabbergasted me. And I already had a spark lit. I was already frustrated with Canada Revenue for my own situation. But when I came across that, this spark just lit inside me. And I became determined to figure out what was the problem. Not just for myself, but for other people. And I also wanted to have a place to talk to people because I was surprised that there was just, nowhere to get answers, nowhere to discuss things. And so I started this group. And at the time, I was just a mad mom and wanted to be mad with other parents. I wasn't even thinking adults applications at the time or anything like that. Like, anyway, I didn't know if anybody would join. It wasn't the first Facebook group I'd started. I wasn't looking for any fame or fortune, but I am a talker. I like to talk, and I have social anxiety. So I don't leave my house and I don't make friends. So I'm lonely a lot. And my outlet and my way of connecting with people is mostly online. So um, I started the group and people poured in so fast. I was just blown away. And almost everybody who came in was denied. Occasionally, somebody would come in who had been approved, and a lot of the times it was for something that you would just think, you know, that's not that severe. So why is this application approved and this person over there who has this child who doesn't even have any hands was denied? Like, doesn't make any logical sense. So me being the bold person that I am, just asked people if I could read their form to see what the difference between their form and the forms that were getting denied were. And as I did that, I started to spot what the problem was. And it was literally that at the time, doctors didn't know that they needed to describe the effects of impairment, even though it says that right on the application form. You know, literally, actually, all the instructions that a person needs to prepare a good form are on the application form. But it takes reading the application form to know that, and not just skimming it, but reading it, absorbing it, thinking about it, analyzing it. You know, it's not enough to just skim over it and blah blah blah, fill the form out. And that's what was happening, and most doctors were writing the diagnosis. And doctors who were filling out the forms for kids with ADHD and such were talking about their school problems, which it says right on the form that academic performance does not count. So those applications were always denied instantly. So what I learned was the difference between a good form and a not good form. And I started in this group giving people suggestions. You know, people would be talking about having a doctor's appointment coming up and what should they do, and they were scared, and because there's all these denials and whatever. And I would give suggestions like write a list of all the things that write a list of all the things that your child struggles with on a day-to-day basis, and take that list with you and have your doctor write about that on the form and describe those things instead of just writing about the diagnosis. And so people started doing that, and next thing you know, people started getting approved. And as people started getting approved, more people were asking me, well, what do you think I should do with mine? And because it's hard. Like, the application form isn't hard at all. It's not hard to be approved when you know the application form, when you know all the subtle things that can get you denied, and when you know all the things that you need to include to get approval, and approval for the number of years you should get it for. Like, it really isn't hard. What's hard about it is when you're filling the form out for somebody that you love. You're, too emotionally invested in it. It gets hard to stick to the main points. It gets hard to keep it simple. It's hard to recognize that there's really only a small handful of things you actually need to include on the form, as long as they are strong points. People want to tell their child's whole life story. And of course they do, because parents, I'm sorry if I get emotional. Like, this group matters to me in a big way, and I want people to understand why. I'm on the same path as everybody else here. And I've said that in messages that I've typed. And I don't think people read much these days because we're living in a society where, everything is done in reels now. And anyway, I'm right there with everybody. I am walking the same path as everybody here on a daily basis. I have 7 kids. They all have complex needs. They all have ADHD. A couple of them have autism. One has a brain injury. My youngest daughter, who is 9, has very serious behavior problems that have caused her to be hospitalized. She can't go to school full time. She can't have recess at the same time as the other kids because she's aggressive. They have talked about her going into foster care because I don't have a lot of the support in my life that I need. And of course, that's not going to happen now, but they have said that, her conditions are not going to get better. They're going to get more challenging as she ages, and that I need to be aware that there may be a point where she needs to be in a group home. And who knows, I hope they're wrong, but I know how hard it is with her now. And I've raised 6 kids through adulthood, and, they weren't hard kids. They have a lot of problems, but they weren't hard kids. I was a hard kid. Not like my daughter is, but I was. And I think about my daughter getting to 15 when I was at my most difficult. And I know that it'll be 100 times worse because it's already 100 times worse. But anyway, I don't remember why I was saying this. I think I was just trying to say that I don't know. Maybe I should re-record, but re-recording won't be authentic, and I'm not about putting on a face, even though I do use filters on my profile pictures. I'm not really about that. I'm really an authentic person. I don't really want to re-record it. I just kind of want to be me. I haven't been allowing myself to be me for quite a few years now because of situations that I'm in. But I'm kicking that to the curb. So I was explaining how the group started and whatnot. I don't remember, but anyway, I'll tell you what was wrong with the kid's application that had no hands. It didn't say that because he had no hands, he couldn't pull up his own pants or do up his own shirts. That was literally the difference between an approval and a denial. Anyway, people would talk about their appointments. They would talk about all the anxiety and the fear that they had about their doctor's appointment. Oh, I know what I was saying. I was saying that it was like my quest because, I was right there with them. When I started the group, my 9-year-old was, if I started the group 8 years ago or whatever, she was an infant. But I had she was a problem in my womb, and I am not kidding. I know that sounds highly dramatic, but I am not kidding. I knew there was something wrong when I was pregnant with her. And the day she was born confirmed it, and every day of her life has been challenging. It's been exhausting. And I'm not young. I'm not a young parent. I mean, I'm 51 years old. I'm not a 30-year-old mom chasing around a kid with severe ODD conduct disorder. I'm a 51-year-old mom with fibromyalgia and arthritis trying to hobble around a very defiant, impulsive child who has a lot of safety issues. So Um, my quest in life became trying to figure out how to get people's approvals. And, people started getting approved. And so then more people would ask me, well, what should I tell my doctor? And sometimes, what I was saying, I think, is that when you're close to the situation, it's really hard to know how to approach something. You're clouded by your own emotions. So, you know, it doesn't sound hard to write a list and take it to your doctor and have your doctor write it on the form. That sounds really easy. But when it's you and you're trying to write a list about your own child and you're struggling and you're feeling defeated and you've already been faced with so much red tape, you have already been fighting to even have a voice, you're feeling like you're crazy half the time because, like in my case anyways, my daughter acts perfect when she's in a novel situation. And so when she's had care providers come into her life, like respite care, they are always like, we don't even know why we need to be giving her respite. She's a perfect angel. And then I'm like, yeah, that's the honeymoon period and it will end. But, when she was younger, before she was in the school system where people were dealing with her all the time, um, I thought I was crazy. I thought it was me. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but I would sit there, I'd go to bed at night and like cry myself to sleep a lot, like wondering, what am I doing wrong? Why can't I handle this kid? Like, what's wrong with her? How can she possibly be this challenging? Like, she was literally aggressive and trying to beat us up when she was 3 months old. She did everything very, very early. So as soon as she could intentionally reach out and grasp something, she was reaching out and trying to rip our noses off our face or rip our hair out. And she thought it was funny. And anyways, it's just been really hard. And it's been really hard to get her help. There's been so much discounting. There's been so much blaming the home environment, which, is not, it's a factor now, but it is not where her problems originated from. Um, so, anyways, people were just coming to this group needing their approval so bad, like needing that extra couple $100 a month that comes with child disability benefit, which isn't a lot, but for me, it covered her Pediasure because she has never eaten properly. She's always needed to be on supplements. Or, it covered gas for doctor's appointments. Or, she's been on every single medication you could imagine, and most of them don't work. So she's been on a lot of medications that aren't covered by benefits because they're new and whatnot. And so I've had to pay a lot of medical expenses out of my pocket, and that extra 200 and whatever dollars, it's a lifesaver. Not to mention, everything else that comes with approval. So I just was on this quest to fix the system, to figure out how people could start getting approved, to do whatever I had to do to help people. And so I gave people suggestions to take to their doctor. People would struggle with knowing what to say. They would struggle with knowing if their kids' problems were even normal, or, what I mean is, it's your kid and you live with them, so you're not always sure. Like, it feels like a problem, but is it a problem? So, you kind of question yourself. And a lot of people have a hard time articulating problems or understanding where the problems lie, or understanding that for the disability tax credit, it's not whether they can or can't, it's whether they can or can't as compared to an average kid of the same age. So that just morphed I ended up writing up requests for reconsiderations a lot because I felt like I could present a person's story. I am a good writer. I'm an empathetic person. I have been through everything in my life that you can possibly imagine. So there isn't a lot that I don't understand from firsthand experience. So I don't find it hard to verbalize what somebody's going through and to find the words for them that they can't find for themselves. So for a long time, all I did was denials and suggested for people what they could have their doctors write when they were applying for the first time. But then the problem was that they would suggest their doctor and their doctor would write all of that, but they would make really stupid form errors. And so people would bring their forms back, before they sent it, and they'd say, well, here's what my doctor wrote. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, like they did not even read the instructions right. So this checkbox is wrong. This checkbox is wrong, and whatnot. And so then people were saying, well, can't you just write the whole form? And I was like, no, I feel like that would be wrong. Like, I'm not the doctor. Um, I really resisted that for a long time. But then it was like I was fixing their forms for them, and then they were having to go back to their doctor, and eventually I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna try it and see what happens. Like, maybe doctors will hate me. Maybe they'll be like, I'm never signing a form because it's wrong, because, what some doctors are like. You see it in the group. There are doctors that have an issue with it. So I tried it. It went way better than I thought, and honestly, almost like most doctors who we write forms for sign. I would say over 90% do, because it's very rare that we have a client whose doctor is not agreeable. It happens, but it's not as often as it seems. When someone comes in the group and they bring it up, it seems like, oh no, this is a huge problem, but that's one person out of thousands and thousands and thousands of people that we've prepared forms for. So this was a really long tangent. I had no plans on talking about the history of this business. I decided to do a video because I'm just joining a group for some self-help stuff, because I need to get a handle on some things in my personal life. And I'm an open book. I always have been. I get criticized for that sometimes. Sometimes I think that I need to stop being that way, but screw it. I'm not going to stop being that way. It's what makes me me. It's what makes me relatable. It's what makes people know that I actually get it and I'm real with them. So, I used to talk about my personal problems in the group all the time when it was smaller. It was like my family. I have got through a lot of crap over the last 8 or whatever years the group has been in existence, from being able to talk to people here and feeling like there's people in my life, in my group, that give a crap about me. And so, if you go back in the posts, you'll see pretty much my whole life story probably. But since the group is a lot bigger and, it's harder for people to know who I am as an individual, I don't do that as much anymore. But my brother just passed away recently. My husband just walked out on me. I have a lot going on, and I need to learn how to deal with my personal life different. And so I just joined a group, and she does a video call with people, and she has a little presentation she does on video. And I was like, she wasn't all dressed up. She was just wearing her toque, walking around outside. Like, why would I have to like put on makeup and try to look all fancy? Like, this is me. Either you accept me the way I am or you don't. Whatever. I've wanted to do videos for a long time. I've wanted to do webinars for a long time, but my social anxiety has stopped me. I've almost ran this entire business through email because I am scared to death to talk to people. And my business has been pretty successful considering it's been all run through email. But that's a change that we're making, because we're at a point now where it is way too time consuming to email back and forth with somebody, and it's easier to just jump on a call. So I am working my butt off to overcome some of my social anxiety so I can be available and so I can get these video guides out, because I think it's a lot easier for people to watch a video instruction or a webinar or whatever than to read through the guides. So that's my goal. That's partly why I created this. I was just typing up a response to a question in the group, and I have arthritis. It's getting really hard for me to use my phone to send messages. My fingers don't work right. So I've been voice messaging a lot, but then I was just thinking, like, I could just do a quick little video and answer that question. Only now this isn't a quick little video and I didn't even touch on that question. So I've just did this long, I'm looking at the time, 31-minute video that probably nobody will even watch, just to tell you that we have a plan that we are going to be doing instructional videos and webinars. I don't know how to do a webinar. So first of all, we have to figure out how to do that. But we want to do some webinars or some live Facebook events to answer questions. Anyway, we have some things that we've had planned for a long time, but it's been really hard to get them going because there's been so many things that have happened along the way, which a lot of them are in the history of the group. But we're working on it. We're working hard for you guys every day. It's really, really hard to manage a group of 50,000 people with a very small team, but we're doing the best that we can, and we have a lot of ideas to make the processes easier, and hopefully we can get them all implemented, soon. It's hard because we have to do all of our office work and everything too, and it's hard to be doing more than one thing at a time. We are totally happy to have volunteers. If anybody has any kind of skills they can offer that want to help make this better than it already is, because it's great. Like what I have done in this group and the way that the tides have changed and now there's rarely denials is amazing. But there's so much more that we want to do. There's still doctor support problems. We've, I think, pretty much perfected people being able to know how to put their applications together properly now. Now we want to start trying to tackle this problem with people's doctors not being supportive. And that's a whole other thing. So anyways, sorry for talking and being a little bit of a weirdo and whatever, but this is me. I've hidden away for a really long time because I always feel like people think that I'm a businesswoman, and I'm not. I'm a mom. I'm a mom who is on the same path as pretty much every single parent here. I also have, health problems of my own, so I understand health problems. I have a lot of things. I have a lot of things in my life that make me understand things on a first-hand level. So there's literally nobody that's ever come into this group that I can't relate to. And so why put on a face? Why try to look different than I am? Why try to come across as some classy, sophisticated, professional person when I'm just like everybody else? I'm a person who has a life mission. This group and people's disability tax credit applications is my life mission. Expanding into other things like CPP forms is on my agenda because that's another area that people need help with. And that's my purpose in life, is to help make